everyone, Jeff here with A Taste for Whiskey, and we're going to continue our series with the regions of Scotch. And I'm here with my good friend Bob, who's just been a wealth of knowledge and been really great at just kind of explaining this whole world of Scotch that, well, a lot of our viewers are kind of new at.
Yeah, and you've said that all along. They're timid about pronouncing Scotch names. They don't know where they're from. And if you saw the video before, we detailed there's traditionally 5 regions. I say there's a 6th region, which is the islands, and that's what we're going to focus on now.
Absolutely.
But before we do, why don't we pour one?
Well, I mean,
one of the in the island regions is Highland Park. So we're going to try a Highland Park the Dark, which is a 17-year-old distillery expression. So pour yourself a dram. Highland Park, folks, while he's pouring, is up in Orkney, which is far, far north off the coast of the mainland of Scotland in the North Sea. Orkney's this fabulous place, and Highland Park is a revered distillery up there. So we're going to talk a little bit about all the various distilleries that compose the island regions. Can't forget the cameraman, can we?
Highland Park is one of his favorites, and you're bringing out the dark.
Thank you. There we go. There we go.
You're spoiling us.
Well, so why don't we take a little sip of it?
Oh, man.
Nose it.
Yeah, this is fantastic, folks. Bob, you've actually really pulled me into Highland Park, and really, that is probably going to be one of my favorite Highland.
Yeah, 52.9 ABV is Highland Park the Dark. Nice. I see our cameraman smiling. So
I'm a loss for words here. Bob, it's fantastic. Very sweet, very rich, extremely viscous, just like the complexities of Scotch.
Yeah.
Just so many layers going on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Highland Park, it's owned by Edrington. They finish a lot of their things in sherry casks that they treat themselves. So it's a really interesting distillery. It's way up here in Orkney, so off the coast up in Orkney. And again, I'm including, so traditionally Highland Park is called the Highlands.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that really they should bracket some of these Highland Scotches and make them called islands. So island Scotch would be Highland Park. Down on Skye, it would be Talisker, and 2 new distilleries. Rassie is one, and Torabveg is another. Arran down here is an island Scotch, and I think they have a unique sort of maritime quality to them that really doesn't fit with the other Highlands. But whether you call it a Highland or an island, that's sort of your preference.
Well, and I think the big thing that we've talked a lot about these regions is each region has their own profile, their own flavor profile. And so when you talk about the island, their flavor profile is actually going to be a little bit different than the Highland area.
And I'm glad you brought that up. Originally, when there wasn't the kind of ability to move product back and forth and supplies back and forth, all of these different distilleries developed around local resources. So whatever barley they had, whatever water they had, was all local. So the profiles of these regions now are rooted in history.
I love that.
Where now you get things in Speyside that's peated. They were never peated before, but you can now truck in peat, you can order peat to be brought in, you can bring barley in from all over. So these regions basically do have profiles, but they're rooted in what was originally developed 100, 150 years ago.
I love that. So with the islands, what is your favorite thing about the islands?
I really like the sort of maritime, a little bit, especially in Highland Park. Highland Park gets their peat from the oldest peat bog that's been discovered on Earth. called the Hobbister peat bog.
You've talked about that.
And they get their peat from there, so it's a different peat, a different smokiness than what you get on Islay. But also, the island scotches have a little bit of a salty, briny characteristic that comes from the fact that these are distilled and aged right at the water. Right at the water. And that's one of the reasons why I like island scotches.
Which is, I'm right there with you, Bob. And that is why the island's Highland is going to be different than the actual Highland area.
Right, right.
Because you don't get that salt, you don't get that brininess.
Exactly, exactly.
This is fantastic.
So I have a little treat for us, if we can, as we end this. I want to put in a plug for all of the independent bottlers around there. People don't realize that independent bottlers really were responsible for the single malt craze, because they were the people who put these single malts in the casks years ago.
Absolutely.
If it weren't for them, we probably wouldn't have single malts. So what I have here that I'd like to share with you is a 28-year-old cask strength, 55.5 ABV, aged in sherry butts, distilled in 1988, bottled in 2016 from Cadenhead.
Oh, man.
So let's try a little of this, and we won't forget the cameraman.
That is, Bob, again, thank you so much. This is, so Cadenhead.
Cadenhead.
Oh, wow. So this is an island.
This is a Highland Park. So Cadenhead bought this cask from Highland Park.
Okay.
They probably moved it from Highland Park's cask to their own cask, and they let it sit there for the 28 years, and their master taster decided it was time, and that's what we get here.
In independent bottlers, you know, I think even Kurt, our cameraman, we've talked a lot about this, and that is some of the best scotches just kind of, they look for the best barrels and bottle those up. And so just because you don't see a Highland Park, but you see like an independent bottler, don't let that deter you, right? Deter you, actually.
Absolutely. So folks, again, this is an island Scotch, Highland Park, Salanja.
Salanja Var.